Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to Life Story 999. We're thrilled to share today's inspiring story about how a simple act of kindness led to an incredible life-changing event. Don't forget to like, comment, and share your own stories in the comments below or through email. Let us know. What would you do in this situation? Now, let's dive in. John Miller, a 62-year-old retired construction worker, was having one of the hardest days of his life. After spending the morning delivering resumes, hoping to find work as his retirement savings dwindled, he boarded a crowded subway home. The exhaustion on his face mirrored the burden he carried in his heart. As John settled into his seat, the train stopped abruptly, and a visibly pregnant young woman, Emma, entered. Clutching her swollen belly, she scanned the packed car, hoping for a place to sit. Without hesitation, John stood and offered his seat, a gesture so simple yet filled with generosity. Emma thanked him warmly and sat down. Noticing John's tired expression, she struck up a conversation. John hesitated but eventually opened up, sharing his worries about his finances and the struggles of aging while looking for work. Emma listened intently, her kind smile never wavering. Emma's empathy was evident as she nodded in understanding, her eyes softening with each word John spoke. She sensed his exhaustion went beyond physical fatigue. It was the weight of uncertainty, the fear of becoming irrelevant. In a world moving so fast, it was easy for someone like John, who had given decades to his craft, to feel left behind. Emma couldn't help but feel a deep respect for this man who, despite his own troubles, had shown her such a kind gesture. "You know, my husband works in construction," Emma said after a pause, her tone thoughtful. "He's always talking about needing experienced workers, people who understand the job inside and out. Why don't you let me give you his contact info? Maybe there's something he could help you with." John's eyes widened, a flicker of hope lighting up his weary gaze. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Was this stranger offering him a lifeline just because he gave up his seat? It seemed too good to be true, but Emma's sincerity made it hard to doubt her. She rummaged through her purse, pulling out a business card, and handed it to John. "Please call him. Mention my name, Emma. I can't promise anything, but it's worth a shot," she added, her smile encouraging. John took the card, his fingers trembling slightly as he read the name of the company. He looked back at Emma, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you," he whispered, his gratitude overwhelming. It wasn't just about the job. It was the idea that someone still believed in him, that there was still hope. The rest of the ride passed with light conversation, but John couldn't help but keep glancing at the card. As the train approached Emma's stop, she stood, giving John one last smile. "Good luck, Mr. Miller. I hope everything works out for you." With that, she stepped off the train, disappearing into the bustling platform. John sat there for a moment, staring at the empty seat Emma had left behind. For the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of optimism. Life had a funny way of surprising you, just when you thought you'd reached the end of your rope. As the train continued its journey, John held onto that business card like a lifeline, a promise of a new beginning. And that, dear viewers, was the beginning of something truly remarkable for John. Sometimes, it's the smallest acts of kindness that end up changing our lives in the biggest ways. What would you have done if you were in John's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. Stay tuned for the rest of this incredible story, and don't forget to share your own experiences with us. We love hearing from you. As their conversation continued, Emma reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. "My husband owns a construction company," she said gently. "He's always looking for experienced professionals. Why don't you give him a call? Mention my name." John's eyes widened in disbelief. Gratitude washed over him as he accepted the card. "Thank you," he stammered, touched by her generosity. "I'll follow up." Over the next few days, John prepared himself for what felt like his last shot at reclaiming his dignity. He dusted off his best suit, updated his resume, and practiced what he'd say. His nerves were high, but he held on to Emma's kindness as a beacon of hope. On the day of his visit, John stood outside the construction office, his heart pounding with both anticipation and fear. He took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and pushed open the glass door. As he stepped inside, he was greeted warmly by the receptionist, who instantly recognized Emma's name. "Ah, you must be Mr. Miller," she said with a kind smile. "Emma told us you might stop by. Please, have a seat. I'll let Mr. Michael know you're here." John sat down, gripping his briefcase tightly. It all seemed surreal. He was just a stranger on a subway, and now he was sitting in a professional office, waiting for an opportunity he had almost given up dreaming about. Moments later, he was ushered into the spacious office of the company's president, Michael, Emma's husband. Michael stood to greet him, extending a firm handshake. "John, I've heard a lot of good things about you from my wife," he said warmly, motioning for John to take a seat. The interview began formally, with Michael asking about John's past experiences and skills. But as they spoke, the atmosphere relaxed. Michael could see John's passion for his work, the pride he took in every project, and the years of hands-on expertise that couldn't be taught in a classroom. As the conversation flowed, John found himself easing into the discussion. He spoke of his years in construction, the projects that had challenged him, and the satisfaction of seeing a building come to life. His voice gained strength as he shared the lessons he'd learned about teamwork, safety, and craftsmanship. Michael nodded, clearly impressed by the depth of John's knowledge and the humility with which he spoke. Midway through their conversation, Michael leaned back, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, John," he began, "we've been looking for someone like you. Someone who not only knows the ins and outs of construction, but also understands the importance of leading a team. I think you could be a great fit here." John felt his breath catch. He had come in hoping for a small role, perhaps just enough to get back on his feet. But Michael's words hinted at something more. Michael continued, "How would you feel about coming on board as a project manager? The position comes with competitive pay and full benefits. We could really use someone with your experience to help guide some of our upcoming projects." For a moment, John was speechless. The weight of the offer sank in, and he blinked back the tears that threatened to well up. I don't know what to say," he finally managed, his voice cracking slightly. "Thank you. This means the world to me." Michael smiled, standing to shake John's hand again. "You've earned it, John, and I have a feeling you're going to do great things here." As John left the office, the business card that had once seemed like a lifeline was now a symbol of new beginnings. He stepped out into the sunlight, a renewed sense of purpose filling his chest. The world that had once seemed cold and indifferent now seemed full of possibilities. John realized that the kindness of a stranger, Emma's simple gesture on a crowded subway, had set off a chain of events that led him here. It reminded him that sometimes, when you least expect it, life has a way of surprising you, offering hope just when you need it most. John threw himself into his new role with enthusiasm and diligence. For the first time in years, he felt valued and secure. He became a mentor to younger employees, sharing wisdom from his decades of experience and creating a lasting impact. Every morning, John arrived early, eager to tackle the challenges of the day. He quickly earned the respect of the crew, not only because of his extensive knowledge, but also because of the way he treated everyone with kindness and fairness. He wasn't just their manager. He was a leader who listened, guided, and inspired them to do their best. One day, while at lunch with his coworkers, John shared the story of how Emma's small act of kindness on the subway had changed his life. His colleagues were moved, and one of them suggested organizing a special event to celebrate Emma's kindness and the positive ripple effect it had created. The idea caught on quickly, and soon, the entire team was on board, eager to show their appreciation. The team planned a surprise appreciation lunch, inviting Emma, Michael, and John's family. They decorated the break room with banners that read "Thank you, Emma," and set up a table filled with food, desserts, and a bouquet of flowers for Emma. The day of the event arrived, and John couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and gratitude as he waited for Emma and Michael to arrive. When Emma walked into the room, she was visibly surprised. Her eyes widened as she took in the decorations and the smiling faces around her. Michael, standing by her side, looked equally astonished. John stepped forward, a warm smile on his face, and said, "Emma, none of us would be here today if it weren't for your kindness. You changed my life, and by doing so, you've touched the lives of everyone here. This is our way of saying thank you." Emma was deeply touched by the gesture. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked around the room, taking in the heartfelt appreciation from everyone present. She hugged John tightly, her voice thick with emotion as she said, "It wasn't just my kindness, John. It was your generosity and honesty that made this possible. You deserve every good thing." As they all sat down to enjoy the meal, laughter and stories filled the room. John's co-workers took turns sharing how much they admired him and how his journey had inspired them to be more compassionate and resilient. Emma listened intently, her heart swelling with pride for the man she had met on that crowded subway months ago. After the meal, Michael stood up to say a few words. "I've always known Emma has a big heart, but seeing the impact of her actions today is truly incredible," he said, glancing at his wife with a smile. "John, you've been a tremendous asset to our company, and we're all lucky to have you here." This story is a testament to the power of kindness, and I hope it reminds us all to never underestimate the impact we can have on someone else's life. The celebration continued with more laughter, and by the end of the lunch, John felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about the connections he had made, the lives he had touched, and the hope that had been rekindled within him. He knew that Emma's kindness had set off a chain reaction, one that would continue to spread far beyond this room. In the following weeks, John continued to excel in his role, but he also made a point to carry forward the spirit of kindness that had brought him here. He began organizing volunteer days for the company, encouraging his coworkers to give back to the community. Whether it was helping build a playground, volunteering at a local shelter, or simply lending a hand to someone in need, John wanted to make sure that the ripple effect of Emma's kindness never stopped. Emma and Michael stayed in touch with John, often meeting up for dinner or catching up over coffee. They became more than just friends. They were a reminder of the goodness that existed in the world, a beacon of hope during times when it was easy to feel overwhelmed by challenges. One evening, as John sat on his porch, watching the sunset, he thought back to that day on the subway. He remembered how tired he had felt, how hopeless everything had seemed. And yet, in a single moment, everything had changed. A simple gesture, a business card, and a leap of faith had led him to a new beginning, one filled with purpose, connection, and joy. John smiled to himself, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. He knew that life could be unpredictable, full of ups and downs, but he also knew that kindness had the power to change everything. It had changed his life, and now, he was determined to keep that chain of kindness going, one small act at a time. Inspired by Emma's example, John decided to pay the kindness forward. He began volunteering at a local community center, offering free workshops for unemployed seniors. His sessions, focused on building resumes, interview preparation, and boosting confidence, quickly became popular. Word spread, and soon, seniors from all over the community were attending, eager to learn and gain the skills they needed to get back on their feet. John found immense fulfillment in this new role. He saw himself in many of the participants, individuals who had worked hard all their lives, only to face unexpected challenges as they grew older. He understood their struggles, their fears, and most importantly, their desire to still contribute meaningfully to society. His workshops weren't just about practical skills. They were about giving hope, helping people believe in themselves again. One day, a man named Carl, a 70-year-old widower, attended one of John's workshops. Carl had been struggling to find work after losing his wife and his home. His eyes were weary, and his shoulders slumped as he walked in, but there was a glimmer of hope that John recognized, the same glimmer he once had when Emma offered him a lifeline. John took an immediate interest in Carl, offering him extra guidance after class and encouraging him not to give up. As John got to know Carl better, he learned about the hardships the man had endured, the loss of his beloved wife, the financial struggles that followed, and the sense of loneliness that had settled in. John knew he had to do more than just help Carl with a resume. He decided to personally refer Carl to Michael's company, hoping that the same opportunity that had changed his life could also change Carl's. John spoke to Michael about Carl, sharing his story and the potential he saw in the older man. Michael, always open to helping those in need, agreed to give Carl a chance. A few weeks later, Carl received a call for an interview. Nervous but hopeful, Carl attended the interview, and thanks to his experience and John's recommendation, he was offered a position. It wasn't long before Carl was back on his feet, with a renewed sense of purpose and stability. The day Carl received the job offer, he called John, his voice trembling with emotion. "You've given me my life back, John," Carl said. "I can't thank you enough for believing in me." John felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that the kindness Emma had shown him was continuing to ripple outward, touching more lives. Carl's newfound stability allowed him to pay the kindness forward as well. He began helping out at the community center where John volunteered, sharing his own experiences and encouraging others who were facing similar struggles. Carl's story became an inspiration to many, proving that it's never too late for a fresh start, and that a single act of kindness can create endless ripples of positivity. The community center became a place not just for learning but for connection and support. People came not only to gain skills, but also to find a sense of belonging and hope. John watched as the seniors he had helped began to help each other, forming friendships and support networks that extended far beyond the walls of the center. One evening, after a particularly successful workshop, John stood back and watched as Carl helped another senior with her resume. The room was filled with laughter, conversation, and a sense of hope that was almost palpable. John felt his heart swell with pride. He realized that the chain of kindness that had started with Emma on that subway train had grown into something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. John knew that the impact of kindness was limitless. It had changed his life, then Carl's, and now it was touching countless others. He understood that every small action, every moment of compassion, had the power to change the world, one person at a time. And he was committed to continuing that legacy, to paying it forward for as long as he could. In a world that often seemed indifferent, John had found purpose in making a difference, no matter how small. He knew that true success wasn't measured by wealth or status, but by the lives we touch and the kindness we spread. And as he looked around the community center, filled with people whose lives had been changed by a simple chain of good deeds, John knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. Years later, John retired again, this time on his own terms. At his farewell party, surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues, he reflected on how his life had transformed. What began as a simple act of kindness had grown into a series of life-changing events that inspired countless others. In his final toast, John said, "Kindness is free, but its value is immeasurable." Let's all remember that even the smallest gestures can change someone's world. The room erupted in applause, and John looked around, his heart full. He knew that his journey had been worthwhile, not because of the achievements, but because of the lives he had touched along the way. Thank you for staying with us through this heartwarming journey. John's story reminds us all that a simple seat on a train, a kind word, or a thoughtful gesture can create a ripple effect, spreading goodness far and wide. We'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced or witnessed an act of kindness that changed a life? Share your stories in the comments or email us. We might just feature it in a future video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible tales from Life Story 999. Wishing you all happiness, health, and the courage to spread kindness every day. See you next time.